For 25 years, MaleSurvivor has fostered a healing community where tens of thousands of men from more than 200 countries come together to find support, information, and more importantly, hope. Formed in 1995, MaleSurvivor has an international membership of over 14,000 registered members from over 200 countries in the world. Joining me now is Ken Followell, longtime MaleSurvivor member and former member of the board of directors, a holder of a number of board positions over those years. And Ken is here to share his recollections on the 25th anniversary of MaleSurvivor. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm glad to be here.
Ken, let me start with this question. Did MaleSurvivor find you, or did you find MaleSurvivor?
I found what was at the time the National Organization Against Male Sexual Victimization at the website of nomsv.org. And at that time, I was pretty sure I was losing my mind. I had started getting flashbacks of childhood abuse and was sure that that couldn't have possibly happened to me. And I was, being the IT guy that I am, surfing prodigy.net to find out any information I could. And I came across the discussion board and chat room for MaleSurvivor and realized that if I was losing my mind, I wasn't alone in the trip. And at the discussion board of what became MaleSurvivor was the first time I ever typed out loud to somebody what had happened to me as a child.
And what happened after that, Ken?
After that, I found a sense of community where I could share the experiences I was going through and take the first steps towards healing. It gave me the courage to let my wife know what was happening. And with her help and encouragement from other men on the discussion board, I reached out and found a therapist and started my recovery and putting pieces back together on what felt like had been shattered.
Yeah.
And from the discussion board, I found about a year later the courage to go on what was the second weekend of recovery that MaleSurvivor put on. So I packed myself up into an airplane and flew from Florida to California so I wouldn't possibly bump into anyone I possibly knew by going to the other side of the country, and found my tribe.
Right, right. And so I can see that it still is a fresh and strong memory for you, because I can see the emotion on your face as you started to describe it. And I mean, all of us survivors still have that reaction.
You know, from those first tentative steps, the path that I took led me very often to speak publicly about my own healing journey. And it never failed, wherever I spoke, someone would seek me out privately as I'd be trying to leave to let me know it had happened to them too. Mm-hmm. And so many times I was privileged to hear that first time someone actually said it out loud, because I had the courage to share it. That, and knowing how many people live with thinking that they were the only ones, led me not only to be part of the board and continue my own journey, but be someone who publicly shares that it happens. So yeah, it is fresh for me, because so often I hear from men and boys that it happened to them too.
So Ken, how did you go from a member involved in the discussion board and, as you explained, to going to the weekends? How did you become involved in the organization?
Well, unlike a lot of the men who go to weekends, they sort of became my addiction. I've been to 16. So, you know, when I say I went to a weekend, that was the first one, but I went to them quite often. And getting that much benefit from them, I felt like I needed to give back. And one of the ways I did that is I started a peer support group, which met in my home for 12 years before it finally ended up disbanding. And getting that taste of giving back, I wanted to be able to do more. And when there was a need on the board for a treasurer, that fit within my wheelhouse. So I reached out to Murray, who was the president at that time, as he has returned to as well, and offered my services. Mm-hmm. After I had talked with the facilitators at the weekend to make sure I wasn't making a terrible mistake.
But you didn't run away from it either.
No. Yeah, you know, being part of a nonprofit board is challenging in the best of circumstances. Being part of MaleSurvivors board has a whole set of challenges in that 50% of the board, I believe is still the requirement, are men who have been survivors. And, you know, every once in a while we get triggered, and sometimes we get triggered right in the middle of board meetings. So, you know, that can be challenging, but it's also was such a growth opportunity to do important work with men who are also on a similar healing path, and to see that we are not broken and there is so much that we have to offer.
And so what were the challenges at the time that you were involved that stand out to you that were challenges and remarkable opportunities?
You know, when we had the discussion board and we were doing the weekends, it was very new, and it was ground that hadn't been broken before. There weren't other websites. There weren't, over and over, we would hear from men on the discussion board, they were seeking resources where they could go to for healing, and there simply wasn't anything for them. So, you know, at the time I was on the board, we looked at a three-pronged approach. We had our web presence, we had the weekends, and we had the conferences. So not only did we provide something immediate that someone could find and know that they weren't alone via the web presence, but we offered weekends where they could go get that deeper experience and that face-to-face community with other survivors. Because that is a precious gift that people can give themselves, is to find an opportunity to be with other people that have been through something like we have. And then we had the conferences where we had the audacity to think that both survivors and professionals in the field of providing healing resources could come together and learn from each other, both how to heal and how to help better serve. So, you know, the therapists not only taught each other, but there were times that the survivors would give workshops that the therapists attended, where the therapists learned because they could ask questions of men they didn't have that therapeutic relationship with. Mm-hmm. So it was amazing growth, and it led to a lot of amazing opportunities.
Yeah, it truly was, and is a symbiotic relationship that still exists today. So what comes to mind when you hear the phrase MaleSurvivor's 25th anniversary?
You know, it sort of hits me in two ways. It feels like, how in the world could it have been that long ago that it happened? And that such a short time.
And we're only talking there 25 years since the formation of MaleSurvivor in Minnesota, right. 1995. And so there was some history before that.
Right. Yeah, the history before, when the therapeutic community came together and realized that there was something going on that wasn't being addressed.
Yeah. And as we continue to have this series of recollections, we'll be getting recollections from others who were in the room at that time.
Yeah.
So you say it has two sides to it. Both how long could it have? How could it have been that long?
Time and incredibly short simultaneously.
And so, what then, if you could, list for me three of the top milestones as you reflect on the years that you were involved in it, or in any of the years, what stands out to you?
For the organization, I think some of the milestones would be when we partnered with John Jay and had the conferences in New York City, and were able to bring together people from literally all parts of the world.
And you would have, at least in one or more years, delivered the opening address, I assume, as the president.
I was very good at giving other people the opportunity to shine. I really prefer being the behind the scenes guy that made it happen. One of the highlights for me is one of the conferences we had Marty, do his one-man play, the tricky part. And I'm someone who's done community theater. And at that conference, I had the pleasure of seeing Marty appear in Spam-A-Lot. And then 2 nights later, he appeared on the stage at our conference to do his one-man play about his story of being victimized. And he was doing a Q&A after his play. And he didn't want to be on stage alone for the Q&A.
How about that?
So for the Q&A, I was up on stage with Marty to give him the comfort of someone standing alongside him. Mm-hmm. And for this community actor to be standing online with someone I just saw appear on Broadway to help him deal with the butterflies.
So the partnering with John Jay is a milestone. How about another?
Another milestone was when Oprah decided that she was going to work with Tyler Perry and bring the subject out.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that was happening at the time. It gave such a sense of validation to every one of us.
And they were hoping they would be able to find 100 men. And
yeah,
one of the organizations that they reached out to and sort of flooded their producers with men who wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. And to be able to provide that resource to someone like Oprah, and then to be part of the audience in that. One of the things you don't see if you've watched the show is the night before we taped, most of us were staying within the same hotel. And we were all gathered in the lobby and the bar areas. And for those of us who had been at the Weekends of Recovery, it was like this amazing family reunion where we all got together again and were able to share this groundbreaking opportunity that we got to be a part of. And that went so late into the night because, family got together. Mm-hmm. And family got together in a way that was completely supportive and loving for many men for whom that rarely was the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Oprah 100 men. How about a third milestone?
I think the third milestone is when the terrible news came out at Penn State about what had been going on with young men related to the coach there. And I choose not to say his name. He got all the publicity he needed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But at that time, we were able to have an executive director and he was able to show up and interact with the press, because so often of what people wanted to say is these boys' lives have been ruined. And we were able to have a survivor show up and talk to the press and say, no, there's a way to heal from this, and lives can be successful and whole, and it's possible to move on. So the narrative didn't totally change because they love that narrative that your life is destroyed. It's just much more dramatic.
Yeah, and it's yet another reason why survivors feel uncomfortable about sharing it, about coming forward, either professionally or personally, because it's that stigmatism.
Right. And,
and it's wrong.
Right. And, on the other side is you have the people who want to say, just get over it. And you don't just get over it.
Yeah. And that voice might be coming from somebody in your own family, unfortunately, also.
Very often.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that happened when you were a kid. You're still harping on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, to be able to provide to the public an image of what healing looks like, and, to provide the resources that, if you need to talk with people, because at that time, reporters would be reaching out and saying, is there someone I can talk to? And being able to be the liaison that, made our executive director available, made the team from the Weekends of Recovery available so that they could talk to people who have been involved in professionally helping men heal, and to let other survivors who were willing at that time to speak publicly speak with the press and bring that all together, that, to give an idea that even in the worst of times, healing is possible.
So over the years, you've seen a lot of change technologically. You were involved in the discussion board in the early days, in the middle days. I don't know that you still are or not, but what would you say to encourage any survivors that might be seeing this program on YouTube or the other ways that we'll distribute it? But what would you say to them to encourage them to go to the support forum online, to go to MaleSurvivor.org, to go to the forum, to go to chat? What would they get out of it?
For so many people, we've got to find that place where it's safe to try out saying those things that need to be said, because one of the things that MaleSurvivor has always offered is the ability for someone's story to be heard. Because so often we speak to people who, even though they're well-intentioned and they love us, they don't know how to hear the story because it frightens them or it makes them uncomfortable and they can't be with us. So what I would say to a survivor is, this is a place where you can go and people are going to be willing to hear whatever it is you have to say, and you're not going to have to explain yourself because they'll get it. They'll understand, and you're going to be able to be heard. And they'll help to redirect you from the virtual world of taking those first steps to finding in your own life places where you can continue to get help. They can help you navigate finding a therapist to help you work through this stuff. They can help you figure out the insurance and billing and all that stuff, because we've been through it. So there's other men who can share their experiences with that for you. And they can be there to hear you if you go to one of those therapists out there who shouldn't be treating male survivors because they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and it's something,
the right one.
Something not to be overlooked, that Male Survivors forum and chat, it's a moderated chat. The moderators are experienced in working with survivors. They have a job to do as moderators, but they're volunteers also. So without their support, we don't have a thriving forum, and it's 24/7. Right. So it's pretty amazing. And every day that I check in and to the support forum, there's somebody new who's just shared their story for the first time. It's heartbreaking and exhilarating at the same time.
Yeah, and it lets you get an idea exactly how widespread this is. It because it truly is 24/7, because men from around the globe come in there. So you may think you're sneaking in the middle of the night, but it's someone else on their lunch break at the exact same time.
Absolutely.
And there is something very reassuring to know that it wasn't personal, it wasn't you, that you didn't do something to bring this on yourself. And through the discussion board and with the help of the moderators and the team there, people learn to see that they can start taking the guilt and shame off their own shoulders and put it on the perpetrator's back where it belongs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as a current board member, it means a lot to me that you were involved to move the organization forward in the years that I needed it. And it was an honor to finally meet you.
Happy to meet you as well, Tim. I'm so glad that you're on board now.
And I just wanted to give you the opportunity to get anything else into the room that you wish to before we bid each other adieu.
The only other thing I would say is, from all my years serving on the board as treasurer and president and board member, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, that it takes money to do this, and every contribution matters. If what you can give is $5, that $5 is going to make a difference. If you've got 5,000, we'd happily take that too. But for the past probably 13 years, I've had a monthly donation that goes out. And I would just encourage everyone who could possibly think about doing that, look at making a regular monthly donation, even if it's just that $5 monthly donation. They add up and they make a huge difference.
Well, we truly are fully funded by individual donations.
Yeah. And it's important. In these times, nonprofits are struggling, and I know MaleSurvivor could definitely use the help. And I never miss the opportunity to tell people, give what you can, and if you can't, show up anyway.
Well, Ken, I appreciate you checking in, giving your recollections on this occasion of the anniversary, which is officially in November. So, I thank you for your time tonight.
You're very welcome, Tim. Have a great evening.